Hello.
Good evening. Oh, Charlie, you've got background music playing. You're fired.
Sorry.
I think this episode yet. You've got background music playing. What do I pay you for?
Oh my God, that's true.
It's a good thing I don't pay you. Welcome to episode 12 of Talking Florida Rugby Occasionally. My name is Ross Davenport, referee, fatback, referee assigner, the color voice of Rugby ATL. And I'm joined as always by Charlie Velasquez, my esteemed producer, who, as you see, does not get paid to. But we can actually see you today, Charlie, which the last two episodes you were a little pixelated. So to see you in that Terros jersey.
I've been working on it, yeah.
Looking fresh from the 305. Now, we do have a very special guest this evening. For you, if you watched the intro, you will have seen a certain Mr. Perry Baker. We'll get to him in a second. And maybe one or two or maybe three special guests are going to join us. Brian Richardson, who introduced Perry to the game of rugby, so we have him to thank for that. Unfortunately, he lives in Texas, and Texas is getting hit right now by some serious weather. So we hope to have Brian on at the start here. We'll see if he gets himself together. He was trying on the computer, and we were having some technical issues. We're going to try and get him on the phone, even if we get Brian on audio. Brian on audio is plenty for everybody to handle, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But we would like to show his superb head of hair. I'm very jealous, obviously. Charlie, obviously, getting that way as well. Brian's head of ginger hair. We'd love to see that on video as well. Whether we get to that, we'll see. But hopefully Brian will be able to join us. So we're going to skip three quick things today because, obviously, our guest is a very important guest, and we don't want to waste any of his time. I will, however, talk about our sponsors. Our first sponsor, obviously a repeat sponsor here on Talking Florida Rugby, is Chris Ream, a referee in Florida, and the owner of lifeinsuranceguy.com. You can see his information there. If you have any questions about life insurance, if you're interested in picking up a policy, or if you're interested in perhaps getting your current policy reviewed, you can get in touch with Chris there at lifeinsuranceguy.com or call him at 954-239-7344. You can email him directly at chris@lifeinsuranceguy.com. We obviously always appreciate Chris's help. He's a longtime supporter of Charlie's website, rugbyfl.com. The premier local rugby site in the entire United States, in my opinion. And I think in Charlie's opinion, too. He puts a ton of effort into the site. And Chris has been a long-time supporter of rugbyfl.com, where you can get all your schedules and standings once we get playing again, which hopefully will be very soon. Our second sponsor this evening is a new sponsor to us, brought to us by Gavin McLeavy of the Okapi Wanderers, who you will have seen earlier in one of our episodes this season. We did a focus on Okapi Wanderers, one of the largest clubs in the United States and growing every year. And Gavin is part of a company called ASM Scholarships, which I'm going to let their president do a little bit of an introduction to here via video. So let's get to that, Charlie. He does a better job.
Have you ever thought about being a sports agent? Good, me too. I actually co-founded an agency called ASM Sports Group. What do we do at ASM Sports Group? Well, we help athletes like all of these find sports scholarships here in America. Ernie Els is also a co-founder of ASM. Hey Ernie, what should we do next for the business?
Hey Chris, we need more scouts, eh?
You heard it from him, we need more scouts. So what does a sports scout actually do? Well, we find athletes all over the world, we qualify them, see if they're any good, and then we help them connect to coaches here in the States. After college, we help them turn professional. Do we play sports? Nah, not really anymore. So, if you want to help athletes save loads of tuition money and you want to manage them in the future, then apply today. We'll see you soon.
Now, Gavin McLeavy from Okapi is one of those scouts that gentleman there was talking. What was his name, Charlie? You did tell me his name, and I forgot already.
Chris,
the president of ASM. Gavin is one of their scouts for the rugby side of things. So he brings in athletes from all over the world and hooks them up with USA scholarships at various colleges around the country. I think he also works with other sports as much as soccer. So if you are an athlete looking to perhaps get a scholarship in the USA, or if you know of anybody that may be looking to come and play rugby over here, get in touch with Gavin at 305-340-7113. Or if you're interested in becoming a scout, if you're an international, or even if you know enough people abroad that be able to give you good reviews on players and athletes that could perhaps be good enough to get a college scholarship over here in the United States, go to asmscholarships.com/scouts. So once again, we thank our great sponsors for helping us out here on Talking Florida Rugby Occasionally. Okay. Now let's get to the real thing here, Charlie.
Hey, I have an update. I have an update from Brian.
Update from Brian Richardson in Texas. Give it to us, Charlie.
Yeah, he says the storm is bad. He lost all his bars, on the phone. So I don't know if we're gonna.
Well, listen, Brian is obviously a big part of Perry's life. As he brought into this sport and has been a big supporter of him throughout his career. So, as much as we'd love to have Brian in here, hopefully we can get him in if he does get some bars going here. But I think we'll be nice to Perry. We'll be kind to him. Obviously, Perry originally from Florida. Give a bit of background on him before I bring him in. He went to high school here and was playing football. And Brian reached out to him. He was his position coach at Spruce Creek High School, up in the northeast corner of the state. And Brian reached out to him and said, I think you'd be a good rugby player. And I think we can assume that Brian has a very good judge of talent, as obviously Perry has gone on to world success on the sevens stage, 2-time World Rugby Sevens Player of the Year in 2017 and 2018. Led the series twice in tries with 48 in 2015-16 and 57 in 2016-17, and was second again in 2017-18. Obviously, we would have seen him in the Olympics this summer. There's no doubt about it, but the Olympics have been postponed to next year, so I hope we'll see him. But let's introduce Perry Baker. Perry, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Taking the time to join us live from California. Where are you at the moment? In Chula Vista?
No, I'm actually in Kearney Mesa, right next to Mission Valley area out in San Diego.
I understand you're running a little camp at the moment and just came from that. So give us some information on that first. We can give you some promotion.
Okay, for sure. Yeah. So I started running 2-day camps right now, Saturday and Sundays, a little Sunday fun day stuff, and just working skills, having guys come out and implementing the skills for the aspects of passing, working on kicking, grubber, trying to help build that confidence, have fun, and utilize the skills that it takes to play rugby. We know as in America, rugby wasn't a big sport here, so to get the sports to grow here, we got to start somewhere and start teaching it from the basics. And basic skills are passing the ball, kicking the ball, being able to catch the ball, and then teaching little ways to have them think. So that's what the camp's about, having fun, enjoying each other. So I have that going on right now, and I'm looking to branch out and travel and go to other areas to have my camps there also.
Awesome. Where can they find out more information? Anybody in the California area that checks this out, either live or on podcast? I think there's a website they can go to?
Not at the moment, but if they email my partner, I started this with my partner named Charlie Purden. He's from South Africa. He played a little bit of rugby himself. And now he's a great skills coach. And if you email Charlie at charlierugbyusa@gmail.com, he'll be able to give you more information on that, of where you can find us at and when we'll be having our camps going.
Awesome stuff. Now keep it busy out there in California. Obviously, no seven stuff going on at the moment. We'll get to that. We'll get to all that in a little bit. But first of all, let's go back to 2006. I think it was. You were playing. What year were you? You were a senior then at Spruce Creek or junior?
I was a senior.
You was a senior at Spruce Creek. Mm-hmm. And how did you know the esteemed Brian Richardson?
Say again?
How did you know Brian originally? I know the answer to this.
Brian was my guidance counselor at Spruce Creek High. And then I went out to the football team one day and said I want to try to make the team. Like I said, Brian was my guidance counselor. Then he also was my position coach. I played wide receiver, and he was also my position coach. So then after the season was over, I started playing basketball and did a little bit of track. And Brian watched me play basketball a couple times, and then he tells me he thinks I can play rugby. Of course, Brian played for a local men's club, and I had no idea what rugby was, never heard of it. So that's how I knew Brian at the time, though, was him being my guidance counselor and my position coach.
Okay, and you said you knew nothing about rugby. And what did he say that persuaded you to go out there? What did he say to you that he just was what you had athletically and said you could be good at this?
Well, he was just consistent with just telling me to come out. He's like, just give it a shot. Just give it a shot. Like every time I saw him, like that's all he would tell me. Like, give it a shot. If you don't like it, I won't ask you to come anymore. You don't have to come. Just come out to one of the training sessions. Every time I almost saw him, that's what he said to me. So I'm like, you know what? Like at first I'm like, man, I don't even know what rugby is. What is rugby? Like I have no idea what rugby is. He's like, come check it out. He tells me a little bit about it. Tells me to come check it out. So one Tuesday night, I went out there and I was like, this is pretty fun. This is freaking sweet. I was having a blast. I was enjoying it the entire time.
And was it a 15s they were playing at that time or sevens?
Sevens at that time. They were playing sevens at that time.
So you walked in at the right time during the
For
summer, I
sure.
assume, as they were getting ready for 7th season. 15
Right.
was over.
Yep.
What do you remember from that first practice? Just how much fun it was, and it was something you fell in love with right away?
Well, just seeing how cool everyone was, like just how everyone interact with each other, how they knew each other ins and outs, like just everything. They were just having a blast. And then it was like, even when we were playing touch, like they was having a blast, laughing, talking to each other during the game and stuff, like doing touch session. I'm like, this is pretty sweet. Like just the brotherhood that they had and the respect that they had for each other. So I was like, you know what? This reminds me of Sandlot football, which I grew up playing, but it's like pretty sweet just to be in this type of environment that's so cool and so respectable. So that's what I like grasped onto.
Awesome. And you came from a football background, obviously went on to play college at Fairmont State, which is Division II, right? Is that right?
Correct. Yep, you're right.
Division
Yep.
II. But you didn't forget about rugby. So did you play some sevens that first summer before you went off to play college football?
Well, I did. I played a couple times. I'll never forget my first tournament was in we went to North Carolina and played in our first tournament, which is freaking cool. I had no idea we was gonna drive a van and travel up there. So I jumped in the van and we all traveled to North Carolina. We played in a tournament and I was like running around everyone. Like no one was like my age. Like no one was young, 18-year-old. You know, I'm running around everyone having a blast. My teammates loving it, having a blast. And yeah, it was a great time. And then I don't remember the next tournament I played in, but what I ended up start doing was I started only playing in like the South 7 Championship tournament. And for me to be able to qualify to play at nationals, if we qualify, I have to play in another tournament. So Brian would take me and have me play in different tournaments, so I'd be eligible to play if we made it to nationals.
That makes sense. Speaking of Brian, it looks like we may have him on the line.
Yeah.
Come on, Brian, man, get it together.
I'm telling you, this storm hit, every power's out.
Where are you in Texas? Where are you in Texas, Brian? I just looked at the radar and it's not pretty.
Yeah, right north of the airport, like 5 minutes.
In Dallas, right where my mother-in-law is flying to right now. So please don't let her turn around. Let her land. Tell the weather to hold off for a bit so she can land in Dallas on her way to Phoenix. But Brian, that was awesome. Thanks for joining us and doing whatever it took to get on here. Now, what do you remember? Perry said you were very persistent about getting him out for rugby. What was it you saw in him initially that thought, he could really be a great rugby player?
Well, I don't know if you brought up the football thing already, but he was a very instinctive football player. And but it wasn't until I saw him play a basketball game where him and one of his buddies, Mickey, they were just so aggressive, trapping and on defense and running the passing lanes. They had a high work rate. I was like, I can turn this, because I already knew what he could do with the ball in his hand. I was like, but defensively, I didn't know what he could or could not do.
Right.
So I knew. I was like, right then and there, I'm like, our team was pretty good. I was like, dude, we're going to put you on the wing. We're going to give you the ball. Go have some fun.
Do you remember how his tackling was that those first couple of tournaments? Obviously, you practiced a little bit.
Oh, it was horrible. He's like, I'm not tackling these men. And I'm like, I told him literally, let them run by and then just catch them from behind and pull them down. And we'll catch up and start, and we'll help you from there if they get by. So his first ever tackle was against the Club Sevens Player of the Year, Luke from Old White. And Luke was a stepper, so he'd step through the defense, and Perry comes out of nowhere and just throws his shoulders into his legs. And like, I just go right to the ref. I'm like, hold my hands up. It's his first game. It's his first game. Because it was a total red card.
Had you play defensive football, Perry? Were you a two-way player in football at all?
I play a little bit of DB, but like football, you really don't really wrap up. You use your shoulder or you use your helmet, like you just dive and take someone's legs out. So I didn't understand the concept with rugby is you actually have to wrap up, like do a form tackle. You actually have to show like some type of form. Football is no form. So when I get out there and I'm running, I see this guy break loose. That's all I know is dive and take their legs out. Like when I played Pop Warner football, all my dad would always say is take their legs out. Just dive and take their legs. So that was just my instinct was dive and take his legs out. Next minute, everyone's like uproar. I just hear everyone yell. I see Brian running saying, sir. And I'm like looking like, what the heck just happened? And then Brian comes yelling at me like, "You can't do that." I'm like, "What?"
I wasn't yelling. We showed up late to that tournament, and we walked on the field against Old White with 6 people, and
all of us that have reffed high school rugby, that you'll have that one player that you can see immediately that doesn't know what he's doing, and you have to keep an eye on him. And we have to thank that ref for not sending Perry Baker off, and perhaps souring his opinion of rugby before it even started. Before I get to the next step in Perry's career, I promised Perry we'd have some special guests this evening. We actually have 3 of them, neither of them who he knows that are coming in. So the first one has stayed up super late in his home country and is going to come in and have a few words. So those of you that know him should know him when I pop him in here. But joining us all the way live from England.
Oh my gosh!
It's Perry's current coach of the USA Eagle Sevens, Mike Friday. Mike, how are we doing?
Yeah, we're good. Yeah, it's early morning here, but it's not so bad. We haven't got the storms that Brian's got. We've been having a bit of a heat wave, so
you had storms, I think, last week, didn't you, in England?
Say that again.
I think you had some storms last week in England, didn't you? That just came in a little bit. So it's pretty hard.
They didn't come to the southeast part of London, which is a good thing, but it took out the west of London. And but yeah, it's been interesting weather, but so far so good. We've missed it where I live, so let's hope the sun stays.
Well, I know you're a busy man, and again, it's 1:17 in the morning in England, so that's why I brought you in earlier here. Now, Mike, you started with USA the same summer that Perry started with USA. Am I correct?
You are. Well, you are. Yeah. I mean, I remember that my first day was when I landed in America. I got parachuted into a camp of about 60 players over a 3 or 4 day camp where everybody was on trial, everybody had a shot, everybody had to earn their stripes again, and we started again. So it was great for me because I had no baggage, I had no pre ideas in who should be and who shouldn't. For me, it was just a case of let's see what it is, let's see what the boys have got. And Perry was at that camp. He had his kind of normal kind of spindly legs out the bottom of the shorts, which we've just seen on those pictures there with Brian. It was a good. I thought I enjoyed myself. It was a good 4 days. I don't think the boys enjoyed themselves, but it was a hard 4 days. But at the end of the camp, they got to play games, and that was the most important thing for me because you can do all the training that you do, but the reality is what can these boys do on the pitch when they play, and what stood out, and Brian's already just touched upon it, just listening to his early memories of being fortunate enough to coach Perry and identifying his talent is he had unbelievable separation speed. So obviously something he'd learned in football and was able to transfer into his rugby, but his ability to maintain the space between him and a defender was outstanding. He had top end gas, and for me, the way that I like to play sevens, I like to have 2 race horses. Obviously, his partner in crime was already on the program in Carlin, but Perry really stood out and took his opportunities in that first camp, and he's never looked back. Never looked back.
So, did you think it was an advantage for you? Did you know anything about the existing squad that was there, or were you sort of just given a complete clean slate with this 60?
Yeah, I mean, I knew them all because I'd done all the commentary, and when I'd been with Kenya a couple of years earlier, I'd seen a number of them. And interestingly enough, when I was in the UK, because obviously Perry went to the UK and played in the Melrose Sevens, I think when Carlin was in Glasgow. And he played for a crew called Tiger, and they came and met me in London, and they were talking about, we found another one. There's another one that's as fast as Carlin, that's as quick. It's all pumping them up. But I didn't have a clue when I landed that it was Perry, and that was probably a good thing because then, like I said, I had no pre-ideas. It was all on him, and he performed. I mean, I'm loving these early stories on his defence because I'm telling you now, jumping at people's legs and trying to get a shoulder in and wrapping his arms has been a lifelong ambition for Rocky and Phil to get him to do. But again, without giving him blowing smoke up his arse the whole time, he has become a very, very, very good defender. as well as he obviously a great attacker. And like talking to Rocky last week, where we're doing this time to do some analysis on all the players. We got some great stuff of how Perry's evolved his defensive game to becoming a very, very good and complete defender, and he is one of the best rugby players in the world for sure in the game of sevens.
Now, I'm not a sevens player myself, but on the defensive side of things, what is important to be a great defender in sevens, you think? Obviously, body control, I think Brian talked about, seeing him play basketball. It's one of those things you don't always consider as a rugby player, is that, the body control you really need to swerve and be able to get low and make a tackle and obviously get involved in rucks. But as a sevens player, what do you see in great defenders, Mike?
Well, obviously, Brian, aggression is everything, because you've got to be brave and you've got to be prepared to get stuck in. And if you're one of the smaller guys, and I can kind of relate to that, and Perry, Carlin, all of us small guys, you've got to have aggression and you've got to be fearless. And Perry is that. But to be a really good defender in sevens, you can't give reads. You've got to stay square as long as you can. And the challenge or the danger when you defend in sevens is to turn early, however quick you may be, because there's still a lot of quick guys out there that if Perry gives Dan Norton too much, he's gone. Likewise, so for the race horses as well, the horriblest thing they ever have is if they're beaten on the outside. Nobody wants to ever be beaten on the outside as a racehorse. So the long and the short of it, the ability for them to stay square, hold their nerve, to not give a read, and then attack the space once you identify where you're going to make that tackle on the edge, is a mark of a good defender. And being able to translate and relay that into the middle of the pitch, which is Perry's works really hard on, because he holds a dream with Carlin that he'll play in the centre and Carlin will play on the wing and they'll rule the world together. But he's worked really hard on being a defensive threat or a defensive force in the middle. Again, where holding your shoulders square is a crucial part. And it takes time, perseverance, and Perry has both of those behaviours down to a T.
Awesome. Yeah, obviously a lot of one-on-one defensive situations in sevens, and you don't have as much help as you do in 15s. Now, how are you keeping yourself busy at the moment, Mike? Obviously, you're over in England at the moment, not with the team. Some Zoom stuff and some skill stuff on videos, you said?
Well, we're doing a lot. We just restarted kind of doing some remote learning stuff, both on the tactical and technical, but also on the mental side as well. We've got some new guys that we join in the program, which again, they've basically got to learn the playbook, so they've got to read the book. So we've got to test them as well. So they're at differing stages. So dependent on where you are on your rugby development, depends on what type of remote learning you're doing at the moment. But with everything that's gone on, and USA Rugby has had some woes off the pitch, off the back of all of this. So for me, it's kind of been a bit of a return to my previous life in the business world, with a lot of spreadsheets,
right,
a lot of budgets and so forth, to deal with that, alongside working with World Rugby to try and get rugby back up and running on the world circuit as soon as we can. And the boys have had a good rest, but I think they're done with rest and they want to get back and get training. And it's going to, we're hopeful we're going to get back on the horse probably in September, but we're going to have to be very careful with all of them. We're going to have to prepare their bodies so they can get ready for the pre-season, which I know they're all looking forward to.
Yeah, obviously England got back started this weekend with every team in the Premiership in action. We'll mention Wasps with a nice big victory today, which I watched live over here. How many guys on the squad at the moment are you working with, Mike?
We've got in the residency squad, we'll probably be starting back up with 26, 27. We've probably got 5 or 6 that are injured, but we're hopeful that what the postponement of the Olympics has done is it's allowed us to get back some time for some of our senior boys to get healthy, for the whole of the squad to have the benefit of restarting to start again, and make the most of that opportunity. So we certainly will be a stronger squad going into this season than we were at the start of last season, and I think we'll be an even hungrier one as well because of everything that's gone on. Now,
obviously, MLR being a great success so far in the first sort of season and a bit. Have you had to battle with persuading guys to come and join you over MLR? I know I do rugby ATL. We obviously saw Harley
Yeah,
Wheeler decide to go with you guys rather than MLR, and we got another Florida kid, Malachi Esdale, who was sort of on the fringes. Your program and has decided to re-sign with Houston. So I was just kind of wanted to get your opinion on MLR versus sevens and how that's going.
I think they can coexist, and I think that's the challenge. But I think the American landscape has got to understand that it's different in rugby to a lot of other sports, in the fact that the national team is the pinnacle, and the national sevens team, as we move towards the Olympics, is just that. So you would hope that the MLR clubs would develop their players to try and encourage them to aspire to make the national team and become a resident sevens player, which means that it will clash with their season. But it's like anything. Then their role within the rugby landscape is to develop the next one and see where they take. So yes, Harley will be joining us this year, but he really was part of the sevens setup that went to try MLR.
Yeah,
Malachi will be joining us this year. He's
great
to join us, and we've got a couple that have gone the other way, and we've got to continue to understand how the rugby landscape can evolve and work together, both from kind of what you would say the club franchise as well as the international team. But we do need to realise in the rugby landscape that what Perry's a part of and what Perry represents is the pinnacle of our game in the USA, and we need all the help and the camaraderie and the collective collaborative working to be a success internationally. Because if we do that, we will then become a more powerful operation on a USA basis.
No doubt about it. Now, before we let you go to bed, any good stories of Perry we can tell that they're kid safe? And
there's loads of great stories, but most of them involve him and Carlin, and it's never a happy ending. But I think probably one of the best ones, again, just typifies how far and how much Perry has developed and worked hard to be the man he is, and be an inspiration for all young people that who might have been chasing one sporting dream but being able to adjust and get after another. Is that Perry had to learn on the run, basically. There were so many things that he could do, but there were so many things he didn't actually know, which, again, if you come from a rugby mature nation like me, you're like, well, of course you know that. So we were in the World Series. I think we were playing, it was either Fiji or somebody in Scotland, and literally somebody is opposite Perry. Perry's defending, and they chipped the ball, put the ball over the top of him. So now it's a foot race. That guy's got the turn. So Perry's pretty sharp on a turn. He's hightailing it back. He's gone past the bloke, and literally we are just inside the 22. So it's quite simple, right? You just kick it out. You just tap it to the side and kick it out. Well, Perry, no. Perry decides actually, and he boots it as hard as he can straight behind our try line and their ball line. So I'll go to him. I said, mate, what are you doing? He said, what do you mean? I said, you do realise that's a 5 metre scrum. He said, you could have just knocked it out. He said, yeah, but I would have had to turn my foot. He said, and my kicking game's, it's in early days. It's easier just to kick it down there. I said, but you gave them a 5 metre scrum. He said, well, I didn't know that, Lord. Maybe told it overall. So all the little things that you take for granted, which are so important at the top end of the game for someone like Perry, who is coming to terms with not only learning the nuances of the game, but also doing it at the highest level internationally for your country on a very unforgiving world circuit, just is testament to how much resilience and perseverance you have to have as a person and as a player, irrelevant of how talented you are, because it's an unforgiving place, and you are going to make mistakes. You just got to learn from them. But it made sense, right? It's a lot more common sense just to kick it straight, right? But it's like the rules are the rules, right? Well, detail. I won't talk about the running behind the sticks one, Perry. You won't do it again. Left unsaid. But we're very, very fortunate that Brian got him to come out there all those years ago.
There's no doubt about it. Perry, any words for your coach, who's obviously been your coach since then, back in 2014? What has he meant to you on this rugby journey?
Nah, that's crazy though. He remembered that. That was so long ago, and that's crazy. But now he's a good coach, and like I said, I always joke around and tell people like we were a package deal, and I always tell Mike, I'm like, man, as long as you here, I'll stay here. But if you leave, I'll leave. Like he's one of those coaches. You know how some coaches are like, I get my kids to believe in me, where if I tell them to do something, they will actually do it. Like even like if you run through a wall. That's the kind of coach Mike is. Like he'll go to a battle for you, not just because he's here, but I always say this all the time. Like he will really go to battle for you. Like, and that's cool. Like you have a coach like that. And like I texted him like a month ago and told him like, what you're doing is motivating me, because here he is. He's out there doing the same system that we are doing for our fitness test, from running the Bronco to running 3-mile runs and stuff. So I'm all about the challenge and I like it. So it's like lead by example. So stuff he's doing is like motivation, like, hey, Mike doing it, you know he's gonna come back and be talking hella shit to us if we can't do it and he was doing it. So it's cool though. He's a good guy though.
That he is, and he's turned himself into an American rugby legend with these last 6 years at the helm of USA Sevens. Well, Mike, listen, I appreciate you coming on. I know it's getting late there. I'll certainly see you at the next Wasps Quinquennial in the next couple of years. And I can't say how much it means to us to have you on here and give him Perry all this great accolades that he deserves.
No, lovely to be on. Lovely to see Perry, and great to see Brian. We've been trying to see him for about 6 years, but finally
see
got
that, Brian. See that, Brian?
Brian tries to get to as many tournaments. He's obviously always in Vegas / LA, but I know you're a busy man at that time, so I'm sure you're a hard man to get a hold of. But yeah, no, we appreciate what Brian did to get Perry on the rugby field, and I know you do as well. Thanks, Mike.
All right. Have a great time.
See you.
What a man. That's our first surprise, Perry. We started off with a bang.
Oh, yeah.
Mike,
I
reached out to Mike, and I wasn't sure. I said, look, listen, you can send us something taped. I understand if you don't want to get up at 1 or be up at 1 a.m. But what a superstar he is. All right, let's get back. I think we've lost Brian for now, so we'll get Brian back in if he gets his signal back up again. So let's talk about, you finished high school, obviously went to play college football, and you were still sneaking some rugby in when you were playing college football?
I had to sneak it in because Brian reached out. It was my freshman year. I redshirted my freshman year, and Brian reached out to my coach and was like, hey, I'd love to have Perry come and play in this tournament. The coach responded, was like, no, we're going to utilize Perry a lot, and no, he cannot go play. Well, my redshirt freshman year is like, they never utilized me. I probably had like one catch on the whole year. So Brian was like kind of pissed off about it. Brian's like, what the heck? So I was like, okay, what we'll do is I will just leave and I won't say anything. I will just come for the summer and won't say anything. But I cannot get hurt, Brian. Please. Like, that was like the biggest thing. It's like I was afraid to get hurt. So then Brian was like, if you don't want to get tackled, pass the ball to someone else. That's it. Okay. He's like, give it a go. So I went like 1 or 2 summers and played with Brian in the summertime. It was sweet. Coach had no idea.
How about your family? Did they know anything about that as well? Obviously, you're getting. I assume you're getting some help financially at Fairmont, and they wanted you to get your degree. And if you perhaps got hurt, and they probably still have kept you on the scholarship, but obviously, it would have been a bit difficult.
Oh, for sure. My family, they knew. They didn't know the whole realm of my coach already told Brian, no, I shouldn't be playing, and no, they wouldn't want me to, But it was like, hey. My parents knew I was playing rugby when I was 18. They knew Brian. They knew the whole ordeal with Brian because they tried to talk me out of playing rugby when I first told them I was going to go try rugby out under Brian. They was like, rugby? No, you don't need to play that. Like, that's a brutal sport. You don't need to play. So then Brian started coming around. He met my family. I'd be like, hey, this Coach Brian. This was my guidance counselor. Like, this is who I'm playing rugby with. So they got to know who Brian was, and that was pretty cool and everything with my family. But they really didn't care too much when I say I'm finna go play rugby now. Like, I'm finna meet up with Brian. I'm gonna play in the tournament. It was like, okay.
Awesome. So you survived your career at Fairmont.
Right.
So you got an opportunity with the Philadelphia Eagles to join them in training camp and suffered a bit of a knee injury. How long did that put you out for, that injury?
I can't even say, man, because I remember when it happened. It actually happened probably the second or third game of my senior year. And I never thought anything of it was I was thinking it's like a bruise because whenever I feel it, I'll just go and rub like Flexol or Icy Hot on it, and I'll be good to go. So this, I would say, when I went to the Eagles and they tell me I failed my physical and they're gonna release me, I got surgery like 2 days later because I flew back the same day, saw the doctor one day, then the next day he called me in for surgery. So I'll say I was probably the same day I went home. It was outpatient. I was outpatient. So the same day I went home, I was literally like jogging upstairs in my house.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so I wouldn't say I was out long. Within like 2 weeks, I was posting a video of me like running a straight line 40.
So
Yeah.
talk about the next step there. Obviously, NFL was sort of gone for now. And then how did Tiger Rugby come about?
So I always said, man, like I'm a little superstitious on certain things. So I would say like it made me believe and never say the word never, because I was always saying I would never play arena football. Because I had watched my brother play arena football, and I'm like, this is a joke. Like, it's so small, I would never play arena football. I was like, if that's the case, I'll go use my degree and get a job and work there. Well, here it comes. I failed my physical, and they're like, the only way I can get a shot now is if I go play arena football, is what I was told. So you can get some film now and show that you can cut and you can move and everything. And I'm like, man, but I want to play in the NFL, and it's the only chance I got. Make the most of this opportunity. So I went, and I end up, and before I even went though, there was a big agent named Steve Baker was telling me, do not play arena football. Like, he was like, he didn't even know it even still existed. He thought arena football was over with. He was like, don't play. The only thing you're gonna do is beat yourself up there and get hurt, and it's gonna be a waste of time. And lo and behold, that's just what I do. I run into the wall and jam my foot right on the wall, like bam, right into it. And my first year, so I missed it. My second year, we going back around, and I end up getting cut from the team. And then I was told I had to leave after being there for so long because I was on injury reserve kind of deal. Then it's like I have to leave. So I called Brian. I'm like, listen, man, rugby, because Brian and myself was talking about it, like rugby has a chance to be in the Olympics coming 2016. So you can be an Olympian. I'm like, that'd be sweet. I'd love to be an Olympian, because all I want to do is be on cereal boxes, billboards, and everything, and like being on a big platform kind of deal. Well, now here's my chance now that rugby can be in the Olympics. So I called Brian up and like, listen, man, I'm gonna give rugby a full go now. Like, I'm done with football. I'm gonna give rugby a full go. And I was like, I don't want to come to Daytona though. Like, I wouldn't feel like I can reach my potential. It wouldn't be as real as I need to be in for me to make it to the next level. So Brian said, hey, I know this guy. I met this guy. They started an academy. It's in Ohio, and I have his contact information. So I'll reach out to those guys and see if you can go to Ohio. I'm like, Ohio? So I look and see what's my drive from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Ohio, which is only like 2 hour drive, I think, 2.5, somewhere around there, maybe 3. And Brian calls me back and was like, hey, they're willing to have you come there for like a month as a trial run to see if you can make it out there. So I'm like, all right. I'm like, okay, so when do they want me to go? And Brian's like, hey, it was like probably like midweek, like a Wednesday. Brian called me back, say, they want you there by Friday. I'm like, Friday? Like, dude, what? Like, I just made this decision. Like, I want to do it, but I'm not ready to go this fast. So Brian's like, hey, are you going to do it or not? I'm like, so my roommate at the time was like, man, go make this play. So I'm like, all right, Brian, I'll do it. I'm going. So I go there for a month to Ohio, and that like following weekend we played. We went to, I think, New York. We went to New York and played in the tournament, and we played on turf, and it was horrible. It was freaking horrible. And like, I don't know why they still chose me, but every ball they gave me, this is God honest truth. Every ball they gave me to put me away, I dropped it. Every single one of them, I dropped the ball. And that never happened to me before. And I can't think of why I'm dropping it. I feel fine. I don't know what's going on, though. I have no idea. I just cannot hold this rugby ball for to save my life. And we end up going back to Ohio and everything. And they end up still letting me play in different tournament stuff. But I played fine, but I never forget it, though. It's like that was one of the worst. I'm thinking, man, I'm going to get my what I want to do is going to be gone, because they're going to tell me I can't be here, like I'm horrible. It's a wrap. But now they let me still stay there, and I stayed there for a month. And then I went back to Daytona to play in a tournament with Daytona, and we ended up losing. Now I'm upset that we lost, and I'm wishing I would have stayed and played with Tiger now, because Tiger made it to the championship. I mean, to the
Nationals.
Nationals. They made it to Nationals, and we didn't. So now I'm kind of ticked off because I was with Tiger the whole summer. And now I go with Daytona, and we don't make it a national, and now Tiger does. But what they ended up doing was they ended up inviting me to a huge tournament right after national, which was Rugby Town Sevens in Denver, Colorado. And I had a phenomenal tournament, like great tournament. I had a blast. And from there, I just stayed with Tiger. Like those guys really believed in me, and it was giving me opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. And by taking me over I never traveled outside the country before, so I got a passport. I traveled to Shanghai. I went to Cancun, Mexico. I'm playing rugby all the time, so this is what I needed to do. And they were trying to get me that exposure, you know, like Mike was telling you. They took me to Melrose, and the entire time, all I'm hearing is Carlin's your competition. Carlin's your competition. That tournament made me realize Carlin's never my competition, because I never got to play against Carlin Owls, and his team ended up winning the whole thing though. But we played our first game and lost, because this is at the time Melrose was one and done. You lose, you're done.
Wow.
And and we'd had an opportunity by winning to end up playing against Carlin. So it's like, you do well against Carlin, you would get a chance at the national team now. So after that, I'm like, man, Carlin's not my competition. I just got to play each tournament I play in. I just got to do well. I just got to make a name for myself. So after that, I just kept playing tournament after tournament. And like Mike said, I got a shot. He came in. So I tell everyone, we're a package deal, man. Mike and I, we're a package deal. We came in at the same time.
Now, was that the long that you spent without a rugby ball? How long had you spent at that point without a rugby ball in your hands? You know, obviously, while going through the NFL stuff.
Oh, well, I didn't pick up a rugby ball until 2000 and what?
So
what did you say,
2012
Brian?
is when you started playing again.
Right, just for national tournaments though. But when I went to I went to Tiger in 2013.
In
So
2013,
I went to Tiger, and I stayed there for a full year. So I'll
Like
say
a year.
2013, I stayed there for a full year, and that's the first time I actually really focused on rugby and was playing every weekend, entire summers and stuff. And I even had to play 15s. I like, people always ask me though, they always say, "Do you ever play 15s?" I'd be like, "Yeah, but no." Because the 15, when I played, it was like, I don't know how to explain it. Like Brian, like I never forget it. Like I've never seen anyone do this in 15s, but we're on our own trial line basically, and all I hear is Brian or someone scream Perry. They toss the ball, and I run the whole field. I'm like, so when I see 15s, that never happens. Same thing with Tiger. I go play 15s with those guys in the wintertime, and here Paul goes. He just goes, Perry, go stand wide, and they just go like ocean or something and throw the ball wide to me, and I'm gone. I like run 80 meters, and I'm like, this is not 15s the way that I think 15 goes. But that's why I always tell people I haven't played 15s, but I have played in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian, do you remember when you got that call from Perry saying that, you know, he wanted to take rugby seriously?
Yeah, so like in 2012, so he's on injured reserve for the arena team. I was like, hey, can you make it to nationals? We got a good team this year. So yeah, he was healthy to play. He wasn't healthy. It was some weird system in arena football. So he's on the injured list there. He comes and plays with us. And he gets invited to like kind of a sort of a tryout after nationals.
Right.
But like the politics back then, it was just a mess. And I remember Perry's out there, and he's like, I think I can stay. And I'm like, just stay. And he's like, well, I'm going to have to sleep on a couch. I was like, well, sleep on a couch. He's like, I'm a professional football player. I was like, well, you got to do what you got to do. If they're sending you home, they're sending you home. But I understood where he's coming from. But he's like, hey, we got to like do something about this. So, you know, we were messing around. And I knew Al Caravelli. He was interested in him from 2006 time. Right. And I called Al up. He's like, well, have him play more 15s. I'm like, Al, like this kid does not need to be playing any 15s at all. If anything, it'll make him worse. So got in touch with Tiger, and Tiger, you know, took him on. Luckily, they were charging me half price, and I was doing some things to raise some money to got some alumni to kind of cover his monthly costs for Tiger. Awesome. And then, yeah, the Tiger thing took off. And, like, thank God the whole Mike Friday thing took over, because the politics were a mess. And the U.S. team was run by the Serevi Sevens, and they weren't giving Tiger guys a shot. So Mike comes in, and Mike didn't care who the hell you were. And he's like, you're either good enough to play or you're not good enough to play. So thank God Mike came on board.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, looking at the rankings from when the USA had finished before Mike came in, they'd never finished higher than 10th. And, now since Mike's comes in, they've never finished lower than 7th, finished 2nd, in the world in 2018, 2019, obviously won in Vegas. Now, Paul Holmes done a great job with Tiger Rugby, and, coming from my rugby ATL background, I know there was some issues there with Tiger, and the politics can play a part in it, but you obviously stuck it out there, Perry. I know you're working for Orkin, I think I read, for a while in Ohio.
Say again?
Where were you working when you were
the
Tiger?
guys.
Working for a while, weren't you? They were working for the bug company.
Oh yeah, it was called Altera, something like that. It was called. It was a pest control company though. But yeah, I was doing that because I got to the point. Even I was telling Paul him know it, and Brian knows. But I got to a point where what Brian said, the politics was really bad, and they wasn't giving Tiger guys a chance. Like no matter what I was doing, I felt like I was getting a chance. Even Paul would tell me like, "Hey, you're gonna get a chance." Like I remember going to Rugby Town, and I didn't know this until after I got to the national team though. But half of the boys that we played against in Rugby Town, they play all for the national team. And I didn't know that at the time. From Ryan Mattias to Madison Hughes, from Pat Blair to Garrett Bender, all these guys played, and we played against them, and we took them to the wire. Like I scored 2 tries on this team, and almost put us up to win. Like I didn't start to turn the game. And so it was just like a bunch of politics. So when I do good and stuff at Tiger, and Tiger's like, hey, you finna get an opportunity now, they're gonna call you. It wasn't happening. So I started begin to get frustrated. I'm like, man, I want to give up. I'm like done. I was like, I need to work now. Like Brian said, like he was doing fundraising stuff and everything for me to be able to go to Tiger, but I wasn't working at the time. I mean, I still had bills need to be paid and things like that. And so it's like, I need to work now. And my mom telling me like, son, I need to step into the reality now, step into the real world now. Like, stop living this dream kind of deal. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear that because I know I can do this, But so I'm like, all right, so Paul them helped me out. They hooked me up with a couple of people here and there, and I ended up finding this job, and the job allowed me to do my type of training I need to do around the job. So everything was like working out for me great.
Now, do you remember where you were when you got the call about the chance to make the Eagle squad?
Yep, I was actually on a call. I was actually doing my quarterly call at a house where I had to spray the house down, and Alex Malgaby called me, and I run in my truck, and I'm sitting in the truck because I had the company's truck, and I'm sitting in the truck, and he's telling me like, hey, so we want to offer you a contract, but it's only for 6 months. He's saying we'll pay for your housing and your food, and that's it kind of deal. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, I'm coming. He's like, okay, we want you here by the weekend. I'm like, oh, snap. So I call my boss and I tell him, because he always knew what I wanted to do, and he always knew this could be a potential thing that could happen, especially after I had went to the tryout. And I just called him. He said, you know what? You can take the rest of the day off, get your stuff together. And he said, I'll see you tomorrow. And that was it. He told me I can leave. But man, I was just in my truck and I was crying hysterically. Like I was so happy. I literally was crying. Like I finally got a chance. I called my dad. I tell my dad. I call one of my close friends, and Terrius Jackson. I call him, and I'm telling him I was just so pumped. And that was it, man. I was like so happy. Like you couldn't tell me anything. There would have been no bad news that day.
And then obviously you made the squad to travel on the circuit that first year in 14-15.
Yeah,
you remember your first tournament that year?
I do, but I had no idea how that worked. Once I thought I signed a contract, I thought I was already on the team. But Brian keeps telling me, like, I wasn't catching on what he was saying. He was like, now you have to make the team. He said, you make the team, I'll come to California. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm already on the team kind of deal. So Brian was like, no. So Brian tells me the whole ordeal, like, no, you have to make the touring squad now, the team to go and travel. I'm like, what? So now, like, we have this chance now we have this called the high performance camp, where now like guys come in and you have to compete to make the squad. Well, they bring us in this room, and all the players sit in the room because they're going to announce the squad that's going to go to Gold Coast. And that was in October. So I'm like, oh, snap. And I'm thinking they're doing it alphabetically order because the first person they name are like Garrett Bender, Danny Barrett. So they start with Danny Barrett, Garrett Bender, and they're going in order. I'm like, dang, I didn't get called. Okay, so and then they're steady going. It's like alphabetical order through the names. Now I'm realizing it was alphabetical order. And then like 11th or 12th that are called, it was like Perry Baker. I'm just like shocked. I'm sitting in the chair and I'm just like, did they just freaking say my name? Yeah. I'm like, did they just say my name? Oh, shoot. So I'm like, I'm running out of there like so pumped and happy. I'll call Brian, and Brian's like, that's what I'm talking about. He's like, are you made the team? I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, we're so excited. And Brian's like, this is what I was telling you about making the team. Now you are officially Eagle, is what he said. So I made the team. I go to Gold Coast, and my first time I touched the ball, like I didn't start, of course. And my first time I touched the ball, I think we were playing against Canada, and they put me in. And it was like, oh,
you guys were down.
Close game. It was a close game. Like we're losing, I think by 5, I think, or maybe 4. We're losing by 4 or 5, something crazy. We're losing, but it's a close game. And I get the ball. And it's like probably 20 seconds to go in the game, and I'm running down the sideline, and the guy grabs me. He grabs me by my shorts, but I'm on the sideline. I'm thinking, don't do something stupid. Don't talk. But I was strong at the time, and I knew I had some type of strength. And I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, don't throw this ball right now. You just hold it and drag this guy. So instantly, it just went back to football in my head. I'm like, I'm strong. Just drag this guy all the way to the try line. Just pull him. So I'm like getting tossed around by him holding my short, and I'm steady trying to drag and run. And then they pile on top of me. All I know is now, put the ball back. Put the ball back. Just get the ball back. And I feel everybody on top of me protecting me. They moving the ball, and I get up, and I'm looking across the field, and I see that we scored. Like Zach Test cuts back in.
Oh yeah, it was wide
Everyone's
open.
going crazy right now. We just won. Like we just beat Canada. Oh snap! We just won. So I get like a couple messages like from Brian. I get a couple messages from Paul. It was like, that was a great run. That was smart. Now to offload it, like it was good. You kept your feet, and you were staying strong in the contact. And I'm like, okay, like this is what I'm supposed to do, right? And it was just like cool. So that was like my first tournament. And then after that, like game 2, I don't start, but I come in early. By game 3, I'm starting now, and I'm like just doing good, I guess. I don't forget. I forget. I probably had like 8 tries that tournament.
and the rest is history, as they say.
Yeah.
You get a lot of texts from the Daytona boys, I assume, that were watching some god awful time in the morning. I can imagine, Brian. What time was that? Did you have guys getting together, or?
It was so horrible trying to figure out where I could watch this game, and like I'm in one of Doc's house in one of his bedrooms trying to like log in because he had Spectrum or something, and we finally got it on. I was like, and we got to see that first Canada game, and it was just. We stayed up all night watching.
Okay, when did you? Obviously, at that point, I think you realized you perhaps sort of made it. But when did you realize you'd really made it, and that this was something you were going to take? Now for say 6-7 years. Was there one tournament you really remember that like this is it? I'm going to keep going.
Was it when you got offered the contract finally?
Well, so I wouldn't say then. Like, so it was one time we always have like a meeting after each tournament with the coaches, with the assistant coach, head coach, and they're in the same room. And they always tell you how you did the tournament, what you can do better, some things to work on, and things like that, and just the whole concept of how everything's going. And they were like telling me like, you need to relax, like you're on this team right now, so relax. And I'm thinking in my head like, so I always was saying like, never take it for granted, which I wasn't, but it's like, never get too comfortable. Also, what I was thinking, and then it was like they were telling me like, you need relax, like you're on the team, like you're not going nowhere right now, like relax. So once I kind of got that, I can feel like a weight lifted off me, and that kind of like gave me the green light to be able to be who I am now, kind of deal.
Awesome. Before I get into some other questions, obviously now you've played. You consider yourself a veteran now. Obviously, with the Olympics being pushed back, obviously not ideal, but where do you see yourself in 2 years? Obviously, you'd love to get to the Olympics again, I assume.
I do. So I said, since basically, because I was telling my wife, I was like, you know what, babe? I said, I haven't played. So since this happened, this got on the truth though. I was like, man, you know what? Since this whole COVID situation happened, I really haven't played rugby in like 2 years. And I was like, because last year I broke my jaw and I missed the freaking season, and I came back in like the last tournament. Then this year I kick off. We play like 4 tournaments, and then it shuts down. So I said, I really haven't played. I really don't feel like I had a lot of wear and tear on my body right now. Yeah, I was feeling tired because I'm getting older here and there. Like I was feeling like it. I said, because I was going. But now I got a break, and I feel so refreshed. Like, honestly, I feel like I'm back in the realm of when I was with Tiger. How I was working out all the time, how I was doing everything, working hard to get to where I want to be. and I feel like I'm back in that realm again. So I honestly feel like I can go another 3 to 4 years. It just depends on how everything pans out. But definitely for sure, I got 2 to go to another Olympics and definitely another World Cup.
Listen, Dan Norton's still doing it. He's what? He's actually, is he younger than you, Dan Norton?
Dan's younger than
He's
Perry.
younger than me, but he's been
That's right.
playing longer. That's the thing.
He's got a lot more miles on those
A
legs.
lot more
though.
mileage. This is true. People forget about that, right? In football, you know, you're not getting tackled every 2 seconds like you are in sevens and having to get back up. In football, you know, you get a breather.
So
You
this
come
is how
up.
I look at it now, though. From now when Dan played to now, the competition is so much better now. It's so like the teams are better, everything like coaches are better, defenses are better. Just everything is so much better from then to now. Because I remember when I first was watching, when Brian told me to turn on the TV and watch these guys, I'm looking like, oh my gosh, this looks so much fun. Like this looks so easy, you know, like. Think about if you look at some of the teams, not to knock them though. You look at like when I first started, Portugal was on there, Japan was on there, teams like that. Those teams not even on the series now. Like they won't even make the series now. You know what I mean? So I would say competitions are better. Like I remember Wales at one point in time had some nice studs on their team, but now their teams are so young they're rebuilding because all their guys went to 15s. You know, like.
Yeah, money is
Same thing with Argentina. Like they had some studs on their team, but they also went to 15. So everyone's kind of rebuilding, you know, but they're great. They're good guys, though. They're good competition and competitiveness out there on the series.
Awesome. Well, before I get to some of those questions I had listed for you, I'm going to bring in our second of 3 special guests. One not from the other side of the world this time.
Okay.
Let's bring in. You recognize this man?
Barry.
I can't see right now. What's up? Hey, White Lightning. White Lightning, what's up, man?
Good to see you, brother.
Likewise. What's going on, man?
Man,
Perry. Yeah, and also,
Dan, I was just talking about you last week, man. I was with Jordan. Jordan was out here in California, man. He was saying how you guys went all on a bike ride and stuff, and how you take your son and you be jumping ramps with your son and stuff, man. It was just so cool.
Dan, tell us your rugby connection with Perry.
So I moved from South Africa and I moved out to Florida back 2003. And it was just tough. You know, all the sports are different in America. And, you know, I missed my friends, my family. And somebody told me in Palm Coast, Florida, that there's a rugby team in Daytona. I was like, no way. So I went to check it out. And, I mean, I'd show up at the wrong place because practices would take place at different fields where we could kick the soccer players off. And I met Brian. Brian wouldn't even let me start playing. He didn't
the first game. He was a little out of control.
I was younger
and
then.
I had to ask another guy. Well, like I was running the forwards, and I'm like, "Hey, is this kid legit?" He's like, "Brian, he's legit." I was like, "All right, if you're sure, he can play." So he was a sub that first game. I think that's the only time you were a sub.
But yeah, then I mean, sevens was great because I'm built like Perry. You know, I got little stick legs myself, so I like the space. And I remember the first practice that Perry showed up. It was him and his friend. I think it's Mickey. Is that his name?
Yeah.
And I these guys, and I saw Perry take off, and I was like, okay, he needs to be on my team because there's no way I'm catching him. And yeah, it was just. You know, I think we won the South Championship that year and went to nationals. And was 2006, Brian, was the first time?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Perry came out, and I'll never forget we're playing the Maryland Exiles. I think it was Chuckanut Bay in Washington. And Perry comes out in these rubber bands around his legs and doesn't look like a rugby player at all. And
he's got those football sliders on under his little shorts.
Yeah, we've seen those photos.
Yeah, I passed him the ball, and he took off. And, I mean, it was like the other guys didn't even get out of the starting blocks. And he puts the ball down and doesn't know what to do with the ball afterwards. He's trying to find out where to put the ball. And I hear
there were fans there, too, yelling at him. You know, he's like, what the hell is this?
Fans yelling at people, asking for his autograph. He doesn't know what to do. And then the players on the sideline are like, snap that twig. And I look over and I was like, you snap the twig before you can snap the twig. That's the challenge.
Is that where did the speed stick name come from, Perry? How did that nickname come about?
So once I got with Tiger and we went to that tournament out in Denver, Colorado, Rugby Town, they came up with that name. Like they was like, man, like you're fast, but you're built like a stick. That's what they said. They said all the time, like Petty, because they're South African. They Petty so fast, but you built like a stick. It's like speed stick. So it just stuck there.
He was actually called Stick in high school too, of some kind. Was it Sticks or Stick?
Sticks.
It was Sticks.
So he was Sticks in high school, and that turned into Speed Stick. Have you ever seen that sponsorship money from the deodorant company, Perry?
Not at all. They showed their boy no love.
Now, Perry, when you played with Brian, obviously at the start, with Dan, at the start of your career, what was the hardest part of rugby initially for you to get? So it took you really a while
Rucking.
to understand.
I mean, just everything. Like I knew nothing. I didn't know anything. I didn't know what to do. I just was out there. All I would do is just kind of wait for the ball, and then I get it. I just try to make stuff happen. But I didn't know anything.
The rucking part was definitely the biggest hurdle. And I was like, just don't go in there. I didn't want him rucking. The best ruck he ever did, he got so blown off on it that he spun out, and so the ball's clear, and he picked it up and scored. That was his best ruck in Daytona.
So Dan, you played for Daytona a good while, for a few years, and then you ended up in Colorado. Now you're still involved in rugby at all?
I go out and throw the ball around and play some touch rugby every now and then, but I'm washed up. I'm old now, and my career in the fire service is pretty important, and that's my livelihood. But it's a great place. I mean, downtown Aspen is a rugby field. That's the centerpiece of this town. So we have the Rugger Fest every October. It's great, and I miss it big time. Live vicariously through you now, Perry.
I was going to say, how do you feel when you see Perry out on that field? It must feel special to say, I used to know that guy when he was just a nothing, and now look at him.
It is, and I was talking to Brian, I think, and it's just crazy that I come from South Africa, so rugby's been my life as a kid, and now friends and family over in South Africa, asking me for Perry's autograph and stuff. And it was surreal that this guy who came on the field and had no clue about rugby, one of my favorite memories now is that chip and chase you did. I was like, that a boy, you wouldn't have seen that, but he was on the try line and chipped it over, chased it down, and scored. And yeah, what a privilege and honor to see how far you've gone, man.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
We'll keep that in here for a little bit here as I get through some of these questions. And going down my list here, Perry, what's your favorite tournament on the circuit, and why? Maybe both as a player and as maybe crowd wise. And do you ever get to be a tourist when you go to some of these towns?
I'll say Cape Town and Hong Kong, and Cape Town is just a beautiful place, and it's so fun. The atmosphere in the stadium is cool. I mean, especially when we get to play South Africa in the pool play, like we know it's going to be nuts in there, but just being there and seeing everything, like it's so much to do outside of, like you said, when I get to be a tourist there. Yes, I do. And it's so fun. It's so much to do. Like at one point in time, I'm going to, before I retire, do the shark cage diving there. Like I plan on doing it like 2 years in a row, and it always falls through. But at one point in time, I'm actually going to do it.
It is Shark Week. I think this past week it was Shark Week, so I watched a good amount of shark stuff this
Perry,
week. Those guys
I want you retired before you go in the ocean again.
Maybe that could be it. If you finish this year to say I'm done, and now I'm going to swim with sharks.
Well, no, in 2012.
I saw a stingray yesterday, Brian. I was out on the paddleboard with my family, and we saw a stingray.
So in 2000,
make sure you shuffle your feet when you're walking out here.
Yes, because in 2012, so I have to get him in a second tournament, so I take him to Beerfoot, because technically that's a second tournament. And halfway through, I let him play one play, and then I pull him out of the game. And I was like,
true story.
So he's hanging out on the beach and gets stung by a stingray, and I'm just sitting there, like, are you gotta be freaking kidding me? I almost F-bombed it there. And I was like, oh, he's done, because the tournament's next week. And so luckily it did not go in too far, apparently. But he was screaming in pain, and it was bad. I was like, oh my God, this thing's over.
Listen, the beach is the safest place to be at Surfing Sevens. It's what goes on in the hotel and what goes on in the water that's the trouble.
Good thing we had Lane there.
Yes.
On the circuit, Perry, did it take you a little while to get used to the travel? I assume you hadn't done that much travel that first year as you ever in your life, so I'm sure it really was a shock to the system.
No, it didn't really take me to get used to it. I was like loving it. Like here I am, a little kid from a small little town in New Smyrna Beach, and I'm traveling the world, going to different countries and stuff. Like I was happy. Like it was pretty sweet to me. But after a while, it takes a while to start to get used to it now because you're always leaving. Like you're like, damn, I just got home. I got to pack my stuff and leave again. Like I want to be in my own bed. I don't want to have to share a room and everything. I want to have my own space, sleep in my own bed at home. And then it's like, nah, you got to go. And then you go when you're on tour, you go one stop to the other stop. So it took a little while to start getting used to that.
And do you remember your first trip back to play in Vegas? I'm sure Brian was there that day. I'm sure some of the Daytona boys were there.
I do. So when I was watching, it's crazy because I was watching when Brian called and told me to watch the Vegas Sevens. I told someone that right then and there, like, hey, I'm gonna be there next year. And I did. I went there with Tiger and we played in the outside invitationals. And then the year after that, I went and I played with the national team. So it was just like an eye opener every time I go to Vegas and I look back at Vegas. It's like, man, like I remember you was watching Vegas on TV. And then I remember you told someone that you will be there next year. Not knowing I was going to be there at Tiger, I'm thinking I'm going to be there at the national team because that's what I thought I'd be able to do. But I was there in the invitational tournament. So I'm like, now I'm in the invitational tournament and I'm watching the team live now. And it's like, I'm going to be there next time. And now I'm there and I'm playing and everyone watching me now. And it's like so cool. And it's like, man, like 2 or 3 years later, we win the tournament. So, man, Vegas will always be special to me. Like, nothing like Vegas. Like the crowd in Vegas is totally different from LA. It's just like, man, it's something you can't really explain. You actually got to live it. You got to be there to feel it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously winning in Vegas was amazing. Talk about that experience and just having that crowd there and USA winning that first title at home.
I feel like once we got past that hump of beating Fiji in the quarters, I feel like everyone believed and knew we had this feeling, we had this chance to win. And then to come out the play against the finals against Argentina, man, like the team was just on fire. Like the atmosphere was on fire. Like after we win, like Mike allowed me to play center that game too. And here I got my boy Carnot. I was able to put him away and I was like, oh, we like living it up. And before I know it, I'm like still like, oh, we won, but I'm looking around trying to see my team, but I see all the fans on the field. Like everyone's storming the field. Like it was nuts. It was so cool. Like it was my family first time seeing me play live. Like they got to come to Vegas and see me play. It was just so something, man. I'm telling you, it's like it'll always be special to me. Like holding that cup up, man. Like standing next to Mike, standing next to my boys, like people who are close to me, people who are something special to me, meaningful to me. Holding that up, man. Man, I don't know, boy. Like it just get me pumped right now. Like I can already live it again.
There you guys are there on the stage after winning that cup up high. Now you mentioned Carlin. I know you guys have a very special relationship. Talk about that a little bit.
Like from the moment that I came out here, when Mike first had the invitational tournament, well, not tournament, but invitations where it was invite for guys to come and try out. And while I was there, I talked to Carlin a little bit here and there, and we exchanged phone numbers. And then he would call me and say, hey, man, like they got rid of players, so there's going to be contracts, man. And like, have you gotten a call yet? Have you gotten one? I'm like, no. He's like, man, we need you here. So it's like from that moment on, like it was something special. Like he's a genuine person. Like it was someone that was going to be in my corner. Like, so whenever they gave out contracts, he called me like, hey, man, they just gave out contracts and guys are gotten them. Have you gotten them? I'm like, bro, I was told not to say anything, but between me and you, I am, and I will be there soon. He's like, oh, my gosh, I was praying for this to happen. He told me he prayed for this and prayed for me to get there. So, and then we would talk all the time as I'm driving to even get to California. Like, we would talk. Like, I'm like, man, I'm in Texas right now, man. I'll be there in like 2 days or so. He's like, all right, just let me know when you get here so I can help you move. So the time I got there, I called him like, hey, man, I just got here. He was at my door, like helping me unpack my truck, like just spend the day together, like took me out, showing me around, talking to me about rugby and everything. Just so cool. So that's why he's my boy. We hit it off from the jump. Like it was never about, I'm coming to take your spot. It was never none of that. It was never like, I'm not going to talk to you because you're here to try and take. It was never any of that. It was just a straight friendship from the jump, from the beginning. Like just me talking to him about how I run and how I see the field and things, and him telling me what to expect from the field and things like that. It was just a genuine bond from the jump. And like I said, from the very beginning, when I saw Daytona Beach, when I first went out there, that's what I saw, that respect and that camaraderie, just that brotherhood from the jump, that's what I got from Carlin, that brotherhood. Like, when you see one, you see the other. That was like all the time. You see the one, you see the other. You see it, and it's still kind of like that now. Like when we on tour, like Mike, like call Carlin. We late to the meeting. Where's Carlin? Where's your boy at? Where he is? Anything. Same vice versa. Hey man, where Perry at? Carlin, he's such and such. Or we got a little call we do. School up. We hear the call. We know what that means.
Definitely an awesome guy to learn from. And you mentioned the culture of rugby and how that really it was attractive to you. What would you say to perhaps a young African American player, a football player in high school that maybe not be getting looked at by colleges football wise, but what would you say to him about rugby to bring him aboard the love of this game?
I just say rugby is a family, like even from just the players who play, but outside from the fans, like they're loyal fans to the sport. Like these are people who actually enjoy the game. You know what I mean? They love teams. It's a respect thing. If you have respect for the game, these fans have respect for you, kind of deal. And it's just like so good to have that like friendship and stuff. Like here I am today. I haven't seen Daniel in years, but he still comes and support when they bring everybody out to the World Cup. And here he is on the line right now. Brian's. It's like that friendship that you build, you always have that, and it's just really cool to have. And I got to tell people, like, you never thought about having your family travel outside the world. Like, that's so cool that you actually get to travel the world playing a sport that you love and that you're enjoying and how fun that is. Like, and seeing different cultures and everything. Like, that's so freaking sweet and so cool to actually do that. Like, Daniel's from South Africa. When I met him in Daytona Beach, I never thought about going to South Africa at all. But I've been the different parts of it. Like I've been to Pretoria, I've been to Joburg, I've been to Cape Town. You know what I mean? I'm a little bit of South African now. Lekker, lekker. Only the South Africans know what lekker means. Lekker.
Brian, talk about the World Cup. You guys organized a trip, I think, out there when the Sevens World Cup was in San Fran.
Yeah, so that was Perry always does well with surprises. So like I put it out to everybody like a year in advance so we could get a group spot. And we got like 25 alumni to go to World Cup.
Awesome.
And Perry scores and sees us in the corner and like the smile on his face. And he got in a little bit of trouble because after the game, he came to say hi to us and came into the stands. And they're like, this isn't over. You should be celebrating. He's like, you guys just don't even understand. And it was true because, he hasn't seen most of those guys in a long, long time.
Did you have any idea that was going on, Perry? I assume you maybe knew there was a couple of them coming, but not that many?
Correct. Like Brian, he was telling me he's trying to get everyone to come. Like he'd tell me that, but the ones that he was getting to come, I had no idea who they were going to be. And like some of them, like I said, like Daniel being there, I didn't know Daniel was going to be there. Doc, like we all, like Doc's the man. And like having Doc there was something sweet to see Doc there. Because Doc used to always tell me, like, I'm going to see you on TV one day. I'm going to see you on TV. You will be on TV. Doc will always say that to me. And to have Doc there and stuff, and just all the boys who I first started playing the club rugby with there, it's so sweet. At the World Cup, and the only World Cup that's been in San Fran, so cool.
Well, speaking of Doc, he did send us a message to play for you. Oh. Charlie, hit the button. I'm not sure where Doc is sending this video from. I'll have to ask him next time I see him, but...
Hello, I'm James Brown, Doc, longtime player for the Daytona Beach Rugby Football Club, the Coconuts, and happy to say a few words about Perry Baker. He started his rugby career with us many years ago when Brian Richardson dragged him from his local school, Spruce Creek, out to the rugby field to have a run. Perry really seemed to enjoy himself, and we recognized right away what an extremely talented athlete we had on the field with us when he went to tracking down Alex Wanyama, who's our speedster from Kenya. It looked like a cheetah chasing a gazelle. We wisely entered him into a sevens tournament. He was actually on our B side initially. Lane Cooley kept grubbering the balls through, and after Perry scored about 6 or 7 tries in his first match, we realized he belonged on the A side. Later on that year, I believe we made nationals in Ferndale, Washington, and although Perry didn't fill out his jersey in the arms, he was instantly a fan favorite. He went on to electrify the audience with 10 tries that weekend when we were still figuring out rugby at the national level for our club. The little kids and fans were actually asking for Perry's autograph at that point. Then Perry was only 18 years old, so you can only imagine the success he may have gone on to had he gotten into the Eagles pool at that point. Perry obviously inspired great confidence for his teammates. We knew if we got the ball to his hands, it likely was a try. He also made it difficult for other teams to score by always tracking everybody down. Everyone has seen Perry's success on TV or in person, and it's just a great honor to have been on the same club and the same field with Perry, honestly. I knew if I just got the ball in his hands, we likely were to score. Gave us a good chance to win in the matches. A lot of people don't realize all the thinking Perry does on the field. One match against Ombak late in the game, it looked like he was just sort of dancing around, kind of wasting time or something before we went on to score. I asked him about it later on. I said, Doc, I was actually watching the clock. I was just letting it wear down so there's no way they could catch us at the end. So Perry's had a great mind and instinct for winning games, whether it be basketball, football, and obviously rugby. He's a great talent. What some people don't know is he's also worn our 15s jersey. And it'd just be neat to think what he might do on a 15s field, whether fullback or wing as well. Perry has never forgotten where he's come from. He's come back home and helped our coconut program. He's even driven down to South Florida, and helped coach us from the sideline, giving us constant pointers and advice. It's just amazing to see how he's grown as an individual and a player. Wonderful to have him on the sidelines. I learned a lot from Perry and the excellent coaching he's had. But Perry's also very generous. You know, one thing he did is we won our bowl championship in 2012. Perry obviously was probably MVP of the team, him and Ryan from Naples. Perry gave me the game ball, though. It's just something Perry's very nice about doing, and he probably should get that back at some point because it's probably worth something, Perry, right now.
And with us now, live from the jungle, apparently, where Doc is Doc Brown. How are we doing, Doc?
Enjoying the program. Hey, Perry.
What's up, Doc? The man. What's going on?
Ed, you're still inspiring us.
Likewise, my man.
I was watching that Rocky video you put on the other day with running real fast in high school.
Yeah.
I got my on his training wheels, and I can just about so, keep it up.
All right.
Yeah, Doc, talk a little bit about your history. Obviously, a longtime player for Daytona Beach. What do you remember about Perry when he first showed up?
The longest.
I think it was just remarkable. We're always looking for a piece of the puzzle. Give Brian a lot of credit for putting the puzzle together that make us competitive and successful. And within Florida and even as a club. See Dan Palmer and there were a lot of other very special guys that were part of that team. And Perry, of course, the highest achiever of the group. It was just great to have him on the field. I just knew, simple rugby, 2-on-1. Yeah, if you can find a 2-on-1, just look to get it to Perry. Don't overthink it, basically.
Awesome stuff. And you were one of those ones that made the trip out to San Francisco for that World Cup. Talk about that experience.
Oh, that was phenomenal. It was just a great time. I think I spent most of the time in the stands. I'm trying to recruit the guys back to Daytona. And of course, every chance I get. If you got me on a little early, I was going to show you a nice sunset up here in Daytona. And Perry, we still want you back.
Doc's always recruiting.
He always is.
Get Perry playing some D4 rugby at the age of 40. I can see that happening.
I did all right at D4.
Perry said he'd play old boys with me someday.
Well, they're still playing.
I'll come join you.
Hey, there we go. You get old boys back.
Feel like getting the back together, but now we'd rather just all gather together and watch you play again. Hopefully, I hope you get another good run. I hope another opportunity. It is a bit of a Cinderella story, so it's very inspirational for all of us. I mean, how many ways could this have gone a little bit differently, right? An injury here, not get the invite that you well deserved, breaking the beef test. I mean, just incredible opportunities and making the most of it. I mean, you had to sleep in a truck and couches. I mean, it wasn't
easy, I don't think. And Perry, you're not a
Not at
stranger
all.
to hard work. You're dedicated. You inspire us. You know, it's just awesome to see you make everything of this opportunity. It's unbelievable.
Appreciate that, Doc.
Time in one of the tournaments, I feel like the level of competition was getting better and better every time we made it out to nationals. Even some of the teams almost looked scary to play against them. And Perry somehow saved us. Sometimes the defensive track down. You know, I remember Dan Palmer out there. By this point, Brian, who was also a great player for us, had transitioned into full-time coach. And Perry saved us. We'd be like up against Kansas City or Charlotte at the end of the game, and Perry would come through with another try. Maybe Joe would get one for us, or you know. But those games were close. They were tough. Maybe I was just old by that point, but I mean, every game was, I think, came down to the wire just about. And we get back to the hotel, and I don't know how Perry had the energy to do all that running. But I asked him in the elevator on the way up, I'm like, knowing he'd saved us in about 2 or 3 of the games already, I was like, you're going to be able to do this again? How many more of these you got left? Because we weren't really resting him. He's like, Doc, I got this. I've been training.
He was. He was getting strong. In 2012, he was getting stronger as the days were getting longer. And I was like, all right, stay out there.
Maybe we need to do an episode. Charlie and I always talk about, you know, some of the teams that have had periods of great success. You know, Crew, obviously, back-to-back title, UCF, Boca, but then Daytona. Everybody sort of forgets the 7 success that you guys had up there.
12 years in a row, #1 seed in the South.
Yeah, Brian, what was sort of the secret to Daytona's 7 success, you think? Was it just a case of having the right guys in the right place or at the right time?
It was Doc, and Doc being so uncoachable that I would mold everybody else around Doc. I was like, Doc's going to do this, so you got to do this.
Yeah, we had a lot.
I knew what Doc was going to do. I'd played with him for so long. I was like, Doc's going to do this. Like, don't try to tell him or teach him anything else. And I was just watching a video from 2018 from Charlie's archives, and Doc's still on the ball at the scrum half in 2018, just taking out that scrum half time after time. I was like, and he used to wear scrum halves out. I loved it.
Always a fun play to rep, no doubt about it. Well, let's get to some last final questions here before we wrap things up. Kerry, talk about when you won those 2, you know, back-to-back World Rugby Sevens Players of the Years, and where do you keep the trophies?
So the first time I won it, I wasn't expecting to win it at all. Like I didn't think. I mean, I knew I played well, but I had no idea, and it was just something like I didn't even dream of it. Like I didn't dream I want to be the Player of the Year. It's just like I don't know even how to explain it, man. I just like was honored to be nominated, #1, but I just felt like even when I was there, like I just felt like, okay, you know what? For this to happen, it's because my team trusts me so much with having the ball in my hand. They trust me so much with doing things. So I wish that my team could be here because I felt like that one was like really for them. Like it was the reason why is because of those guys. Like the way they allow me to be myself and how much they trust me so much. So that one was just like an awe, like just an honor. Now the second one was like I was gunning for it. Like that's like I was like, you know what? I want to be Player of the Year. I want to break the top try and score of all time. Like I want to go for this. Like I'm going for it. And I was like, I can do this. And
watching that video, carrying that ball.
So the second one, I was like, man, this is really like the hard work and stuff. Like, make me really think about what it took to even be nominated to be in this situation. So like the second one, that's what that one was about. Was like, man, like everyone who said I could not be a rugby player, I wouldn't make it, for the ones that really believed in me and supported me, and for me just believing in myself and having the hard work and dedication to go, was like that's what the second one's about. Like I can really do it. And it just feels so good knowing that I'm the only one to win it 2 times, Player of the Year 2 times, and not back to back, you know. So it just feels really good, and it makes my story so much better for me to be able to speak to people and tell people how much the hard work and believing in yourself and where it can get you, you know, and just having that support system. So, I mean, I keep them in my house. I have a little I put it up. So my wife bought me 2 shelves to put up my trophies and everything. And the top
Cool.
rack that I put up, for some reason, it keeps being slanted. So I took my top scoring and my 100 ball down, but those other ones are still up. I don't know if I can show you real quick. If I can flip my screen around a bit to show you what they are. If I can do that. I hope this is the camera how I flip it. Did I flip it or did I turn my camera off? Oh,
You turned it off for a second.
okay, I'm back on. I'm sorry. I don't know how to flip it, so I just turn it like this and let you see.
Yeah, there
Right
you go.
Bam. That's 1,
Nice.
and that will be 2. That's my shelf that keep leaning. I was telling you about though, and there it is. That's jersey from the first time. That jersey's from the first time of us winning the tournament out of
London.
London. Yep.
We'll put the we'll shape that top shelf for the Olympic gold medal in 2020.
For sure.
I was watching that try. There was some tries Charlie was showing in the background there, and there's that one that I always remember was that one against Fiji where you sort of had it in the corner and inside your own 5-meter line, took it the distance. Is there one try above all that you really remember, other than your first one, obviously?
I would say against New Zealand and Dubai, because it put us up to be the first time. Like that was the only team we have never beat on the series ever, and to do that in Dubai, and we ended up, I think, placing 3rd that year too in Dubai. So that was like pretty huge. And then for Madison, like to nail that kick from the corner, oh my goodness, he nailed the kick from the corner. Like he's running with his tongue out like Michael Jordan. Like everything about that game was solidified, like who we were, like made us really know that we can do what we're doing, and really made us believe that we are struggling what people think we are. Like we are a top contender team.
So I remember that, and I'm like, I'm losing my mind because they had just tied New Zealand. And I'm talking to Perry after. I was like, "Can you show some emotion?" He's like, "That's all it was. It was just a tie. We were just tied." And it wasn't until Madison made that kick till they actually, got over that mountain of New Zealand. So I was like, that was pretty cool of him to say that. But I'm like, man, so some emotion out there. He's like, it was just a tie. It didn't mean anything until the kick. So you were right.
Awesome stuff. We did have some questions submitted on Facebook. What was the best advice you could give to a high school student getting ready for college? Maybe one that's playing rugby. Obviously, you didn't play rugby in college, but you did go to college. What advice could you give to them? Maybe about perhaps playing rugby at the next level as well.
Have fun, number one, because college goes by so fast, and college is an experience. Like everyone doesn't go, and some people that go, they feel like it's not for them. But make the most of it. Like have fun for sure, because it goes by so fast, and just make the most of the opportunity that you got. Because when you look around, like you'll be a senior before you know it. And like with myself, like I was 5 years in school, and it went by so fast. Like I remember like seniors telling me the same thing, like guys, it's gonna go by so fast. And it went by so fast. Like when I became a senior, I'm looking like this is my last year. You feel so sad. You're like, man, like this was so cool, so much fun. Like I enjoyed it, and I don't want it to end kind of deal. I felt like I want to do much more. And
we're losing Perry a little bit.
So I remember, Perry didn't like high school too much, at least the schoolwork part of it.
The school.
And he gets, he gets to college, and I'm like, I keep telling him how your grades. And when it was all said and done, he was like, you know why I did well in school? So I could get it over with.
Yes, that's right. If you don't you got to go for that extra year. There's no doubt about it. There's going that carrot dangling in front of you. I had a question from one of our FAU. I help run some of the FAU stuff on the alumni side, and one of our guys wants to challenge you to a race. But I was going to turn that into a question. Do you get challenged to races a lot?
Oh my gosh, all the time, all the time.
Do they ever put the money on the ground?
I was like, race for what? So I used to start. So when I was in college, it started when I was in college too. Guys want to race all the time in college. Like freshman guys that will come in, guys who become like working out really hard in the summertime that come back, maybe like sophomores or juniors, they want to race. So I started saying, I only race for money now. Like put $100 down to a race. Now, like,
I told Enoch.
so now it's like, I just say for what? Race me for what? Just to say you're faster than me? Like, I always tell them, like, you can be fast, but you're going to realize when you get on a series or the circuit, wherever you go, it's more than just having speed. So that's what I always say, race me for what? Why you want to race me? And they be like, because I want to see how fast you are. I say, play against me and you'll find out.
I was going to tell Hennick if there's I think he's 20, maybe 19, 20. I said, if some way you could race Perry at 19, 20, I'd make that happen. But at this point, Perry's not a young man anymore. He's getting up there.
Tell him play me. We'll play against me. We'll find out.
There you go. I told him to get his ass out to California. Third question I had was, were you ever offered a contract to play 15s anywhere in England or anywhere else overseas at any point?
I don't want to talk about that, but I was, and I never took it. I turned it down, and it was just a bunch of conflict going on because, of course, I'm on a contract with USA Rugby, with the 7 program. And like I said, Mike and I was a package deal, but it was just too much, And at the end of the day, I'm like, I'm about being loyal kind of deal, And Mike will look out for me for the best interest of for my body and everything else, and my family too. So I never took it. Yeah, it was just a time, and like all the time was the time, and like it was right before the Olympics. I'm like, no, I want to play in the Olympics. Like, no, that's not gonna happen. So I said, that for me to play 15 to get a contract, it had to be before the World Cup, because when the World Cup comes, I want to be going and playing in the World Cup. Well, here it comes right before the World Cup. I'm like, no, I'm not going now. Like, I want to play in the World Cup. I'm not going. So then it's just like Mike had to like nip it in the bud and like it's like cancel all that stuff. Like, stop sending contracts. It's not gonna happen. Stop the communication. He's not going. And I told Mike, like, I don't know who's doing this. I'm not going. I haven't signed a contract. So yeah.
Crazy rumors out there. So you did go to Mike and sort of ask him advice, or did you say, look, Mike, I have got offers, but this is what I'm doing?
Correct. Yes. Awesome. That's what I said.
Now, Mike did mention a little bit earlier, the last question was about, when you think you'll be playing international competition again, 15s and 7s. He said September. Is that what you've heard so far as well, next month at some point?
Well, September, just when we come back as a team. We probably won't play. Like, we'll probably scrimmage, but not right off the bat. We'll probably scrimmage in like October, and we won't play until like a competition tournament until December or maybe March. So, like I said, though, I'm just trying, like, I'm back in that realm where I just like working hard to like be the best I can be. So when things get back to being able to play, I'll be ready to go and I can play to the best of my ability.
One question I want to spring on you. Can you talk about a typical week, let's say between tournaments? So, you play till Saturday, Sunday, and then it takes you a day to get home, I assume. And then how does that next week work sort of between tournaments? I know sometimes there's I think most of them is a couple of weeks between, but I think there's some that are a week between.
Well, all of our tournaments, so like we'll leave one place and go to another place. We'll fly right to the other stop.
Gotcha.
And so that Monday will be technically an off day just because we're traveling, but it's not really an off day because we travel, So during the week, that Tuesday, it'd be like a nice, relaxed day just to get out there and maybe do something, get the ball running through our hands or whatnot, and just get our legs moving. Nothing strenuous at all. And then Wednesday or Thursday would be a off day for us to go and tour the city or wherever we're at, tour the town, and then and maybe and then it depends on if it's Wednesday or Thursday. If it's Wednesday off day, then we're off. Thursday will be a high intensity kind of day. Friday is the captain run. Saturday we back in and play.
Awesome. Last question before I let you guys go. Listen, Barry, I greatly appreciate you spending over an hour and a half with us on a Sunday night out in California.
Opportunity.
Talk about, listen, Brian raves about you to everybody. He's the greatest Barry Baker advertiser there is. Talk about what Brian's meant to you and just throughout your career. I know it's a tough question, but I don't think everybody I know, but I don't think everybody out there realizes just what he's meant to you and you wouldn't be where you are today without him.
For sure, and that's the God honest truth. Like Brian, I can tell you stories for days of how Brian really believed in me from the very, very beginning and really pushed support. Like, he's always there. Like, even when I'm having a rough time, bad days, whatever the case may be, I can phone Brian. No matter what time it is, where it's at, Brian's gonna call me back. He'll shoot me a text message. He'll phone me back. He'll listen to me rant, talk to me, whatever the case may be. Stuff from my wedding. He was everything, any and everything. Brian's there. And it's just like, man, I'll do anything for Brian. Like, I told Brian, like, you know what, man? I don't want to play rugby and you guys come and watch me and y'all go no more. I want to go and we all hang out as friends and family. Like, we all kicking it. Bring our wives, bring kids, and we just enjoy ourselves without playing rugby, outside of rugby, you know? And I remember Brian's telling me, like, man, leave my job I'm working, just drive to California and sleep in my car and just pull up at the training center, just jump out and go to start training. Like, he was that type of motivation to tell me to go do it because it can happen. Go do it. Like, Brian's just everything. Like, it's so close now. He talks to my wife more than he talks to me sometimes. Like, he's telling me today, like, see, I'm like, how the hell you know that? She's like, well, Brian texted me. I'm like, it's about me. Why he texting you? Like,
he did confirm that we'd be okay today by talking to your wife. He said the wife said it's okay, so Perry will be there.
Right, everything, and like vice versa, like the same thing. I'm like,
Well,
hey, Brian,
you get a lot of
do I need to talk to? I'm like, hey, do I need to talk to Becky? Like, hey, Becky, can we do this? She's like, what are you doing now? Can I please borrow Brian, please, for a little bit? And like, they came to the point now where Mike Friday wants Brian to come to the center. Like, he wants Brian to come and watch us train. He wants to talk to Brian. It's like,
I'm coming, I swear.
And he's been saying this for years now, but we're just so freaking close. And like, Brian's just everything to me, man. Like you said, like, I wouldn't be where I am today. Like, Brian just went over and beyond. I'm so grateful that he's in my life. I'm so grateful I met him from his kids. Like, Ava's my girl, you know, like from when she was tiny, you know, and everything, like anything. But like, I even tried to give Brian my second place. Placing second on the series, I tried to get my medal. He wouldn't take it. Like, Brian, take this medal. I don't want it. I'm honored to give it to you. Like, you deserve this more than me right now. He's like, why you? I'm Brian, I don't want freaking second. I want first. So you can take the second. You can have it and put it with journey that you have. But I wouldn't give it to anyone else, though. No one else will be deserving to have that, though. Like, I only feel special to give that to Brian because. And it was so crazy. He was there. Like, he came all the way to Paris because he was like, I think you're going to get in first place. Like, you're going to get it. It's just
I had a feeling.
And I just tell everyone all the time, like, you have to believe in yourself first, but a support system is even major if you have that. Because I tell you so many times before I want to give up, there's so many times where I deal with things that I don't feel comfortable talking to anyone else about but to Brian. Because, like, he knows me. Like, he's willing to listen to me. He's willing to play that devil's advocate to me where he gives me the raw stuff that I need to hear, you know? And it's just like, I need that. My parents are different because they're my parents, you know what I mean? Your parents can be hard on you. My parents, well, Brian's just that big brother mentorship kind of deal, you know?
He's your rugby parent.
Yeah, for sure. He's just, and Becky always
I'm rugby dad to a lot of people.
Becky always says it though. He was only doing it if Perry says it. But it's just like, man, I can't put into words like how special Brian is to me and my family. Like my mom and dad, like when they first told me not to play rugby, now it's like Brian this, Brian that. Like, Brian, go play with this, go do this, or go do that. It's like everything is Brian now, you know. And I'm just grateful that I met him and that he's been in my life this long.
No doubt. We do have to thank him a little bit. Brian, is there one moment in Perry's career that you're most proud of?
I mean, when he finished school, that was a good one for me. And then New Zealand, when you got 4 tries, that was a good one. But a couple times when you've offloaded the guys who you didn't need to make that extra pass and you could have got that extra try on your stats, but you were looking out for the guy who had just made the team for the first time and you give them a try. Like those are some special times where I was like, he understands it's a team sport and not an individual sport.
No doubt. James, Doc, any final words for this Sevens legend up here?
No, just make the most of it, Perry. Keep inspiring us. Look forward to running into you again. You're very approachable, down to earth, and you've never lost sight of that, even being internationally famous. I remember the days you'd call me up and say, hey, Doc, What are you doing tonight? You want to go to?
Yes, sir.
It's always good times and approachable. That's a great characteristic. I wish you
Appreciate that.
luck with everything.
Thanks, Doc.
Awesome. Dan, any final words from you out there in Colorado?
Yeah, Perry, it'd be good to see you in person again, man. Just proud of the way you conduct yourself, man. Everyone can see the talent you have on the field, but it's what goes on behind the scenes and the way you conduct yourself and the humility you carry yourself with. It's impressive, man. Continue.
Thanks, Dan.
That it is. And hopefully we'll get to see him on a rugby field soon. Hopefully, obviously, the 7th Circuit, at least postponed until 2021, but hopefully everything will start picking up by then and we'll get to see this man back sprinting past defenders and scoring tries for the USA Eagles. Well, Perry, again, an hour and 40 minutes with us. Listen, we're just a little rugby podcast that's just been going for the last few months, but we're really trying to focus, on getting these Florida guys some love. Obviously, you get plenty of love from around the world, but you're one of the first to really go out there and do it outside of the state, and we appreciate you taking the time to speak with us this evening. It's been an amazing time.
Thank you. Really
Thank you,
appreciate the
Ross.
opportunity and you calling us. Hey, boys, one last time. Go Coconuts and go Gamutu.
Gagamutu.
Cheers, boys. We'll see you next week. Next Sunday, we have John Steiner from Tropical Sevens, which is one of the biggest sevens tournaments in the country now, and here right in Florida. So another man helping produce Florida talent, and we've got talent from all over the world coming into that. Hopefully, we'll get that going again next year. So, Charlie, are you there for a final word? Hiding in the background somewhere. Thanks as always for providing the great videos and great photos to go along with Perry's story. I think that was obviously an amazing episode. It was just like we knew it was going to be. We got Mike Friday on as a surprise for him, which was something I didn't pull off, but we did at 1 a.m. England time. Obviously having Wasps connections helps a little bit, but Dan and Brian and Doc, appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
And helping out with our little program here. And obviously, if you want to help out Florida Rugby, help out TFRO, you can be a sponsor or be a supporter. Charlie, you know the website better than I do. To be a supporter of us, Florida Rugby, just help out here and there. We can't hear you.
Oh, I had muted myself. Well, there it is. We have a GoFundMe. And of course, what we would really like is to have steady sponsors, people who believe in this. That would help a lot. So thank you, guys.
We're here to have some fun and promote Florida Rugby, and whatever else we get is just extra. But I think we're having fun. We're 12 episodes in, and I'm not sure if I thought we'd get this far, and we've done it every week. And we're back here next Sunday on Talking Florida Rugby occasionally. Thanks, boys. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about my connection.
That was good.